Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of Full Self-Driving Beta. I'm Sean, and welcome to the channel. If you are new here, I'm on FSD Beta 11.3.6. We've got 11.4. something, hopefully around the corner. There was some hope that maybe because it is 420 that we might see a push tonight to testers, but I have not heard anything yet. This isn't my normal test loop, but it is a route I do fairly frequently with some hits and misses. So I figured I would go ahead and start filming this loop at least once in a while just to see how it improves over time. So we have some newly painted markings here on the ground, and I think that is going to help tremendously with some of the lane keeping things I have seen around here. That turn we just had back there, it would always cross that double yellow line, but I attributed a lot of that because of the wear from the weather. It looks like this time, without any traffic there, it made it just fine. So that's looking good so far. All right, coming up to another problem intersection for me, which is stupid because it's a four-way stop. We usually get a stop line here, and if there's other cars, it's usually worse. See, we've got a creep fence. There's no need to creep because it is a four-way stop, so it should just go, and it's going to the creep line. So just absolutely terrible, and it does that consistently. That said, it does not do it coming back the other way. So I think it has to do with the view obstruction, but that's still really frustrating. Again, being a four-way stop, it should be able to see if there's any cars that are nearing that intersection, even with some of the blockage on the right, and most certainly shouldn't stop then go to a creep line in the middle of the intersection. That will probably get fixed for beta thanks to my city, because there's going to be a traffic light there soon. Why it's not a roundabout, I'm not sure, but smarter people than I for city planning. Of course, I just washed the car today. It was looking shiny and pretty. It wasn't a deep clean, but it was a good wash, and now, of course, it is raining. My fault for not double checking forecast. Here we've got a yield. Sometimes it's a hit or miss here. Looks like we're going to get lucky, and we don't need to stop, so we don't have to. So far so good. One intervention at that four-way stop, but no disengagements, but there's probably one coming up here because on this version, it always wants to take this first. It's not really an exit because it's not really a highway, but it's kind of an exit. I guess it's labeled an exit. So it skips this one, but then it even plans to go to that one, and it's not on the route. So we're going to disengage there. Incorrect exit. And then we'll go ahead and re-engage. Maybe. No, and that's another thing I've noticed. You know, I have seen Rocco have problems with re-engaging FSD after a disengagement. Even though you get the wheel, it like goes away like as soon as you're hitting it. So anyway. So we didn't get to see it do the right turn there, but that's fine. On our right turn here. This has never been an issue for beta in previous versions, and now I had to give it some accelerator because the guy behind me, and now it's so weird. Last time I did that, it got into the other lane before it wanted to make the turn. I don't, it's sort of a sharp turn, but it's not challenging. So that worked out okay. Interestingly, it didn't turn into the first lane because sometimes it will want to dive over and then dive, but I think we did okay. So we got a destination up here on the left. I will check you again on the way back. Lots of traffic from the left. Well, a few cars. We're almost done. But there's a nice big gap after this car. Good. Well, it was good. It started to roll after that car, which I have seen a few times. It's been really nice behavior, actually, is instead of like waiting for the car to fully pass, it starts to make its progress through the intersection as the car is going. So if we were a little bit faster here, we would be able to make this turn. But this is something, look at this. Look how far into this lane we are. So we don't have anybody behind me, and nobody's wanting to turn, but we're basically in this lane on the left side before it actually commits to the turn. So if anybody wanted to make a left turn from this lane onto that street, I'd be completely blocking them. So usually when I've done that left turn, I go ahead and disengage, but I wanted to kind of show you how that played out. So fear not, I have reported it a handful of times. It's actually probably worth mentioning that we actually do need to be in this lane for our travel path. So the fact that it's done this about 5 blocks before it needed to is actually really great, and something I'm looking forward to in 11.4 that's been called out, anticipating lane positioning based on the planner. So I highlighted that on Twitter. If you haven't followed me on Twitter, at now Teslafy. Yeah, so really good behavior that it moved into this lane already, because the lane on the left-hand side here actually ends up becoming left turn only on the next block. So I like the planning ahead. That's fantastic. So generally what I see here is a bit of a slalom. It likes to get into the right-hand lane any minute now. Usually it does it right there, so that's interesting, and didn't do it there yet. Okay, so maybe because of traffic around us, we're staying in our lane. Again, ideally we would be in the left or the right lane, but this will work if it just decides to stay in this lane. Usually I get, again, lane change shenanigans. So it hasn't even given us the little blue path projection, or hey, I want to get into this lane. That's interesting. Almost every other time I've gone this route, it's tried to get over into this right-hand lane. But then through this next light, it wants to get back in this left lane. So, again, could be just traffic that I'm in right now is kind of preventing Beta from wanting to make that move. But I'll take it. This is fine. Less lane change shenanigans, the better. That's my biggest gripe, to be honest, besides the four-way stops. Okay, so far so good. That area typically is just very, gosh, in fact, earlier today, I disengaged before I got there because I just didn't want to deal with the lane change shenanigans. So it didn't even do it once, so that's pretty awesome. So this is awesome. This is the lane we need to be in. If you watched any of my other videos, this is the bridge that has the exit. We need to be in this middle lane to get into this exit. It's done it a couple of times. Not consistently. I got it on video successfully once, but usually it's gonna change into this right-hand lane. Yep. So ideally we'd be in the middle lane, but and see, now it wants to get back over into the lane we were just in. which is awkward, right? So we're on this curve rather, and it wants to get over into this left-hand lane. So actually, interestingly, that was a really close. I mean, there's nobody in between. It didn't necessarily need to squeeze in there, but it moved right in behind him with plenty, you know, fairly aggressive clearance as far as distance to him, but appropriate. I wasn't nervous about it at all. So that's fine. It did that in a safe manner, but again, just lane change shenanigans. If it had just been the correct lane to begin with, it wouldn't have had to make the lane change at all. And I think other drivers, again, around Beta, being respectful to them, you know, seeing people weave in and out of lanes makes you think that the person driving doesn't know where they are, doesn't instill confidence. So if that's something that Beta can take care of, have that far thinking ahead and minimize the lane changes as far as that goes. Now that was really good. See, this is the lane. Oh, so now it stopped, just as I give it compliments. So I went ahead and really gave it some juice there, because gosh dang, why does it do that? It was our turn, we were moving forward. I mean, I could go back and look at the footage and see what was on the screen, because I was more paying attention to the road, but it put up the creep line again in the middle of the intersection. Why would you do that at a four-way stop? So, again, the city of East Wenatchee will be fixing that for Beta, so it doesn't have to think about that ever again here in the very near future when it puts in the stoplight. So, it'll be the second time that the city has fixed an issue with Beta, which is pretty funny. Oh, I'm sorry, we can't fix that issue with software. We're gonna have to ask the city to modify this intersection for us so we can get it right. Really like the smooth turns that we've been getting on V11. I think that is definitely one of the things that's been fairly understated. Well, no, I shouldn't say it's. Everybody says it, and I agree. It is. It's really nice and natural. It's smooth. It's not herky-jerky. It's very good. This is another area where sometimes it would just like be very uncomfortable about making that turn and herky-jerky, and that's been resolved in this version. So really looking forward to updates. I didn't hear the earnings. I didn't actually listen to the actual earnings call, but Elon stated FSD will be done this year. He's been saying it forever, this year, but from what the quote I heard was, I hate to say it, but I think FSD should be done this year. Or I think, I don't know. I don't know the exact quote, but he brought it up again that it would be finished. And I don't exactly know what finished means. I don't know if, I don't know if it's Robotaxi finished. I don't know. But that is the end of our loop. You know, overall, not too bad. And to be honest, you know, driving around town, on this version, you know, if you haven't seen my highlights and lowlights video, go check that out. I've got some traffic circles in there that were just consistently an issue and are still an issue. This is one little mini one specifically. The larger traffic circle hasn't been an issue. But anyway, on the whole, I've definitely had less disengagements with V11 now. I think it is also safe to say that even after a full beta release, once it needs even a bit more time after it's been released. So I normally do my videos right after their release. As soon as it's done, I'm out there, I'm doing my test loop. I have not actually done it on this version yet, on V11 yet. Not in its entirety. Or I did film it and then I decided to not finish editing it, etc. Another story, lots of versions coming out. Anyway, but I do feel like that it has gotten better over the last couple of weeks. It's still, there are some things I can consistently count on, some areas I can consistently count on it screwing up, but those are predictable, very predictable now. Although we even saw in this drive, there was a couple of things that I was like, okay. But overall, I think V11 is pretty awesome. I have used it now several times for a couple of longer trips, 300-mile trips, and on the interstate, and it's been very good. And the other thing that I'll mention, I have noticed less nags. They're still there, but they are less. They're noticeably less for me. So I don't know if that's the same for you. Let me know down in the comments if you feel like that the nags are less. But otherwise, that will do it for this video. I will probably do a actual test loop because I want to. Anyway, if you get into the end of this video, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. That's amazing of you. Drop me a comment. What do you think? What are your experiences? What are you hoping to be fixed? Is there a problem thing in your area? Maybe I can test it in mine and see if I get the same results. Let me know down in the comments. And of course, like the video, subscribe to the channel. My next video, if I remember, I'm gonna pray and try to remember. My test loop video, I will be name dropping all the folks that have subscribed to my channel at the beginning of that test loop. And if you want your Twitter handle, feel free to leave that in there too. I'll shout that out, no problem. Obviously a small following here, but hey, I'm happy to share the love, and thank you all for giving me your time. Until next time, now Teslafy.